Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the Tech ChitChat Show. My name is Ken. I'm from Northern Viking Everyday and Northern Viking Explorer. You can find me on YouTube, and I'm here with my co-host, Steven, who's a video game programmer. You can find him on YouTube at Steven Loney or on Twitter at 8-Bit Warrior. Welcome today, Steven. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. Do you have your coffee handy?
Of course.
Yeah, of course, coffee. Got to get going. Yeah. I know we've been talking about this for a little bit, and this is our first podcast. We're excited to do this. You can probably find us on YouTube as well as podcasting services. We have to put this up, so we're not exactly sure where it's going to be just yet, but hopefully everywhere very soon. So we've got a bunch of stuff we want to cover today. We're going to get into some things like we're going to talk about video cards a little bit. We're going to talk about some AMD stuff. We're going to talk about Windows 10X. We're going to talk about a new codec that should save you data and space, as well as we're going to talk a little bit of CES. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Maybe we'll tell a little bit about ourselves here. I do a lot of YouTube work, and I love tech. I teach some tech at the library as well, and I know Steven's a programmer, so we're kind of trying to bring what we have and bring it to you. Do you have any thoughts there, Steven, before we get rolling?
Yeah, just to share a bit about myself. Yeah, I'm a programmer. I've been doing game development for about 15 years, largely as a hobby and sometimes professional, mix of both. Yeah, I'm very I'm just hoping to bring in more of the programming mind aside, more dig deeper and look at more of the analytical, technical aspects of stuff as we go along.
Perfect, awesome. And I don't know if you can hear that. Someone's doing a peel out outside my window here with their truck. So yeah, that's awesome. First thing in a podcast, but we'll just keep rolling and know that this is gonna work for us. Why don't we just get right into it? We're gonna jump into the RTX 3060. So what are your thoughts there, Steven? You brought this up and brought it to my attention this week, and
yes,
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yes, I am excited about the 3060, the RTX 3060, because the interesting thing about the RTX 3060 is that there's more powerful cards that have come out that actually have less video memory than the 3060. It has 12 gigabytes of video memory, which is quite large for a mid-range video card. So there's some people have been asking, saying, well, what is this card for? Why does this have more video memory than like the flagship video cards that are like way more money? And interestingly enough, because I do some video editing and stuff, this is actually what I've been looking for in the market, is this card with high video memory, but it doesn't need all the gaming performance. So this card, when this was talked about, I was like, this is for me. They're like, who's this for? It's for me. I want the video memory. I do 4K editing, and I don't need all that gaming power. I don't need all that. I actually had recently a 2080 Super, and I actually recently just downgraded to a GTX 1070 because I didn't need all the gaming performance of the 2080 Super. And the GTX 1070 has the exact same amount of video memory, 8 gigs, as the 2080 Super. And so on gaming performance, the 2080 Super is twice as powerful, but in video editing, the 1070 was like 90% as good in performance.
And that's what I'm using as well, is the 1070 for video editing. And it works great for my applications as well. So
it works really good. And compared to the 20 Super, and the 1070, so I've just pocketed the difference right now. I'm waiting on a newer card like the 3060. So until I can get my hands on one of those in the future, and I don't know if I'll jump on one right away, but like that is kind of what I'm waiting for. So again,
does the 3060, it looks like, I was looking at this chart, looks like it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Is that what I'm seeing here, I think?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, so it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which is like plenty for like, especially for like a mid-range card. That's a lot. Because again, like the 2080 Supers and stuff have like 8 gigs still. So this has like 50% more.
Yeah. So I see here the RTX 3060 Ti still only has 8. For those people who are maybe new to video cards, and this is your forte, as a consumer, you'd say, oh, well, 12 is better than 8. So I should get that, but it's going to be cheaper. Why? What are your thoughts there?
Well, right. So that would be a bad number. So if your point is for gaming, you'd want the 3060 Ti or 3070 or 3080. So yeah, you definitely don't want to look at that as being like it's better, because if a game or a application doesn't need that much RAM, well, it's kind of useless. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's like having a vehicle. It's like saying a vehicle with more seats is better. It's like, well, yeah, it could be, but if you only ever drive yourself, it's
Or
not.
like a Ferrari, but you're not allowed to go over 100.
Oh, exactly. And it's like, yes,
I don't know if that makes sense, but
and it is. It's like there's a potential for a use of it, but you can't even use it. But if the applications you're using really need that space or that full. So for me, for 4K video editing, you can quickly eat into your video memory, and it's something that you want. But there's certain games where, for example, if you're playing, for some of the gamers out there, if you're playing a game called like Rocket League, it only uses like 1 gigabyte of VRAM. So if you're playing Rocket League and you're like, I'm going to get this 12 gigabyte card, well, you're only using less than 10% of the VRAM in that game.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
But other games will use a lot more for more other games. But that's just one example. But for editing, I know you do editing. It's a factor. So.
Yeah. Well, and I saw the price there. I think it was $329 US. It's going to be starting at, is what they're saying. So I think that's good value for that. I know, and that kind of leads us into the next thing we wanted to talk about was the GPU used market. And I know, for example, when I bought my computer, I actually bought it used. It came with a Asus 780. And I sold that and bought a 1070, the same as what you're using, a different brand. But, you know, I was able to get that for a really good deal. And I think that's where the price of that 3060 is not that much more than the used market right now. But there's problems with the used market, I think.
Yes.
I think that's something you wanted to chat about as well.
Well, yeah, so I just jumped in the used market. As I said, I sold my 2080 Super and I bought a 1070 on the used market. And I actually found a really good deal. I got it for $230 Canadian, which is pretty good deal.
What I paid $250 for mine. So
yeah. And so, but the same ballpark there. And that's like the best bang for buck, in my opinion, is that 1070. So it's a really good deal. I pocketed the cash from the 20 Super and just bought 1070, and it was like all I need. So really good. But the market is getting skewed right now because a lot of people already know that the Nvidia and AMD, there's a shortage in the stock. You got Bitcoin miners buying them up.
I think that's a big one. Yeah.
You got bots buying them up and reselling for higher prices. It's just not a healthy market new. So it's probably a good time to look to the used market, but now it's jumped to that problem is also jumping to the used market now too. And I'm looking at a site here with some sales locally. And for example, looking at like a RX 580, I would buy those. I find them available for like, I actually picked one up a while ago for like 200, but you see them come and go for like $250, $200 to $300. And now there's people selling RX 580s for like the AMD card for like twice the price. Like I see people listening for 450, 500, like double of what they should be.
Yeah.
So the used market's also getting messed up right now, but I would encourage people, do not buy into still play the used market, but don't look at the stupid, ridiculous prices. You can still find people selling for reasonable prices. They're still there.
Yeah.
And I still think that like a 1070 is the best bang for buck. If you can't find anything, I would say you want a high performance card that's decent for like 1440p gaming. I would look at a 1070.
Yeah. And if you jump on them right away, if you're kind of look every day, there's a high likelihood you'll find something.
Well, right. Well, even here today, I'm not even looking hard. And there's an 8 gig. Of course, they're all 8 gigs, but the 1070 for $300 Canadian here, like sure.
Yeah. Still, so for those of you watching or listening in the US, it's about I guess $300. It's probably about $230 or something like that. US would be the equivalent. So for those of you listening in the US, so cool. Yeah, I think I mean, we've both gone through the used market, and it'll be interesting to see where things are headed going forward. Moving on, you brought something to my attention. We actually talked about this, I think, for the first time maybe 6 months ago, or I saw a video. You showed me a video online about the RTX voice. And this kind of segments from the video cards. So for those of you who aren't aware, RTX voice helps reduce background noise. If you're podcasting or recording audio or streaming or whatever you're doing. It just is a background noise reducer, so you won't hear typing. Maybe you won't hear. I don't actually have it turned on at the moment, but you won't hear cars squealing out in front of the house as you start your first podcast. So, yeah, do you have thoughts on that, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm actually using it right now. RTX voice is really cool. So, what happened is, so with the 2080 Super, which is an RTX card, you have access to a software suite from Nvidia called Open Broadcast. And Open Broadcast includes RTX voice and also the video cam, so you can have like a stream like this and then like replace your background or have a blur, stuff like that. So downgrading from the 2080 Super to the 1070, I lost access to Open Broadcast because they required an RTX card, I think a 2060 or greater. But I realized the other day that the RTX voice by itself could still be downloaded and used by people using 1070s, maybe even 1060s, possibly. But like if you have like a 1060 or 1070 or 1080 or 1080 Ti, I realized you can still download RTX voice just by itself outside of our Open Broadcast, NVIDIA Broadcast. So which was really cool. So I was a little bit sad. I'm like, oh, I'm losing access to that. But so I'm actually using RTX voice right now. So if I do any typing, I won't try because I might mess something up here. But like my chair is squeaking right now, and I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. But if I didn't have it on, you'd probably hear my chair squeaking. Yeah. So that was just cool. It's saying even in downgrading to 1070, I still have access to RTX voice, which has been great. Now, I did mention that on Twitter, saying, "Hey, like this is great using RTX voice with 1070." And one of the developers of RTX voice actually says, "Yeah, we've enabled it." He says, "But to know that your use might be limited if you're on like the 10 series NVIDIA cards." They're saying, "Yes, we have it working, but don't expect it to work as well as like the on like a 2060, 2070 or above."
Yeah. But I just had thrown up the website there a little bit earlier. I don't know, those of you, this is a podcast, so you wouldn't have seen it, but you can download it at nvidia.com. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, I'll put it in the description below so you can find a link to try that out for yourself if that's something you want to do. Yeah. So, yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's an awesome thing to try out and see if it works for you, especially a lot of game streamers. That might be something they want to try out. Yeah. And a lot of people just might not know that it's still accessible. So it's just like if you see the NVIDIA Broadcast suite come up, know that if you have a 10 series card, RTX voice is still available for download by itself. It's still there. And it's just kind of that knowledge of like, oh, it is there. Okay. So a lot of people just might not know that. They're not really pushing it, that part of it. So for sure. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So next up, I saw this week and I thought it was kind of interesting. Windows 10X. I don't know. Had you heard about this before this week, Stephen? Or briefly. I was curious. Yeah, what is it? So I saw some tweets and different articles come out this week about Windows 10X, and from what I can gather, it's kind of in development from what I can gather, and it's supposed to be more competition to the Chrome OS. So for low-powered, I don't even know if I want to call them laptops, Chromebooks, I guess is what we should call them. And if you go online, like the articles I've been looking at, there's small little videos of people using it. It looks very much like a very, very watered down version of Windows. I think it's designed for using Microsoft's OneDrive for most of your storage. And it's truly designed to compete with Chrome. So if this comes out, like it's not, from what I understand, you're not going to be able to use it with your existing devices. It's going to have to come out with a new device that's purchased. And I don't know, like I know at my kids' school, their school is full of Chromebooks. There might be a huge market for this, for all those people who just want to surf the web, check their Facebook, and reply to emails. This might be a good option for you if you're familiar with Windows. I think it's going to just feel very straightforward and easy to use because
Mhm.
a lot of the features look similar. The article I was reading, it also did talk about it potentially having a similar flair to a future update of Windows. So you can see all the buttons here are actually in the middle of the screen at the bottom, or I don't want to call them buttons, but the icons rather than in the bottom left-hand corner. So your start menu and everything like that. It just looks very watered down, but I think it's definitely something to think about if you're needing something. Just maybe you want an extra something by the couch so you can just surf the web while you're, I don't know, sipping on your coffee in the morning. And I think they'll be low cost. I don't even know what to call them because they're a competitor to like a Chromebook, but yeah. That being said, I say low cost. I was at Costco this week and they had a Chromebook that was $700 and something.
Really?
I took a picture of it. It was,
That doesn't seem the right
I mean,
market.
that's Canadian dollars, but if you're spending $769 or whatever it was, I think, why are you looking at a Chromebook? I mean, maybe there's a use for it, but that just seems awfully high for a Chromebook. In my mind, a Chromebook should be $350. So, that might be something to think about if you're really comfortable with Windows going forward. So, any other thoughts on that, Stephen? Or
well, yeah, I am wondering. So I feel like Windows has tried. I think if I did hear a little bit about this, and I feel like Windows has tried to enter this market, and they haven't had the greatest success. I think.
yeah, well, in the past they've had their phones with Windows on them. I know some people who have used them and just love them, but the popularity didn't take off.
I feel like part of the problem is that Windows is fighting against an established idea of, oh, it's Windows, so I can run my Windows applications on it, when that's not the case. So I feel like they have some market confusion, that they're fighting against a battle of that's against themselves, where it's like a person who's not knowledgeable in the subject goes to the store, they go to a Best Buy and they look, hey, well, here's a Windows 10 computer for like half the price, laptop as half a price as the other one. Both are Windows. So they buy the Windows one and they buy it for their son who's going to school, and now he can't even use a certain application. Or he can't play, any games on there practically, which is fine if it's just for school or not. But I just feel like there's this fighting against, well, it's a Windows laptop, so I should be able to play Windows, but not at all.
No, for sure. And I think, I mean, that's going to be, I think for those of you who are looking for this, it's the programs, you're probably going to find apps developed directly for this. Like the native Facebook app, I don't know, will look the same, if it'll look exactly the same. It might be more like your phone app.
Well, the thing is, anything though that goes to the web browser should be fine. Like if you're just using, like once you're into the web browser, you're like, it should be pretty much identical.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I guess
it's
if
only
you're downloading a program, like apps will have to be designed to work with
this. It's only really affecting like native applications that are like on your computer. Anything to the web browser should be near identical.
Okay. And so I guess what I'm saying is if there was a Facebook app like you'd have on your phone, it would probably look different than if you went onto the browser, maybe? Or not necessarily?
No, it should look the same. It's just performance. And the big issue is not almost with the Facebooks or the Twitters or that. It's with like, it's the kid wanting to just play Minecraft.
That's true.
It's like, can I play Minecraft? And that one probably will have it. I mean, when Microsoft owns Minecraft, they'll probably have it working for it. I think they already do have an ARM-based version of it. But it's just things like that. It's like the kid wants to go play, okay, I want to play Rocket League, this popular game, or Fortnite. Well, they're not working. Those things just won't work because that one's going to be on the ARM-based. It's more like a phone. So, and this is a side note. We didn't talk about, I don't know if I've mentioned, but like, there's the Raspberry Pi 400. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
did you buy one?
No, but I've been meaning to, but for like really cheap, like you can buy Raspberry Pis by themselves, like for really cheap, and you can build your own housing. But they had the Raspberry Pi 400, which they built the Raspberry Pi computer into like the keyboard, so it's like more like the older style, like think old Amiga or Commodore kind of deal. So in regards to schools, like you bring up about the Windows 10X could be cool for schools. Well, look at the Raspberry Pi 400. The keyboard, everything's in there. You plug into a monitor for like roughly $100, and you got a computer that's going to do probably largely what the Windows 10X stuff will do. For like,
and that's what I mentioned. I know they have a ton of Chromebooks at my kids' school, but it's perfect for them doing their homework at school. But
I just think it could be hard.
Why don't we move on? Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. I know. Next thing, we wanted to talk about the H.266 codec. And I know that wasn't a very smooth transition, but we're trying to keep the time limit here. The H.266 codec. And if you're not aware, this is a new video codec that is supposedly coming out very soon, that's in development, that should allow video files, everything from standard definition to 8K, to be about half the file size. So this should help with streaming and file storage on your computer. So Stephen, any thoughts on this at all? Or
so it sounds really good. Like on paper, it's like cut your bandwidth in half. So instead of downloading,
is that the keyword? It sounds really good.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if it is what it says it is, it sounds really good on paper, and it could be really good. But there is some possible trade-offs. It's like, I haven't looked into it deeply. But when you hear about, this thing will, it's this big of a file size and we can do it at this file size, so it cuts bandwidth in half. You could think, well, YouTube would love this and all these things. And it sounds good. And it could be really good. Like, I haven't looked into all of it, but the one thing to consider is, you have to consider how long it takes, how much work you have to do to pack it down, and how much work you have to do to unpack it. So it's one thing to pack something down, but how much work do you have to do to get it there? How much work do you have to do to get it back out to a usable state? So that could put a bigger strain on both the computer that has to pack it and the computer that has to unpack it. So
as well as, I think the if you're filming with a camera and it's using this codec, I'm assuming it could affect that as well. I know, like for example, in memory cards, you need a fast enough memory card to handle that. So that would be something as well.
Yeah, and I don't know all the details, but there's just one thing to factor in is when people hear about these codecs that are smaller, you got to also think about the compression time and the decompression time. Because even it might be really great. You're like, say you live off in the sticks somewhere, and you're like, hey, we can finally download standard definition video because your internet's so bad. You might be able to, it might be fine, but if the codec is hard on hardware, where it actually requires a beefier processor to unpack it, you might be hitting a different issue where now you can stream that standard definition, but you're getting stuttering because it's not. So I'm assuming that the people developing the codec are considering performance, and it's fine. But that's the one thing, is just like, how will it perform on a CPU? Is it actually practical for, or will it require newer hardware? It's just things to consider.
No, for sure.
But I find it exciting. You're right. For yourself, you've mentioned before that you would appreciate being able to just pack down certain files, stored video files and stuff.
Well, I do so much video work, and I just bought an 8 terabyte backup drive, and I'm wondering how long that's going to last me. Like, if I put everything on there, I'm sure it would be the better part of full. So this being able to, for me, being able to put twice as much video on a backup drive would be super handy if that's the case. So I think long term, if your hardware and everything can handle it, I think it's a great option. And it'll allow for your devices to hold more content, potentially streaming faster for videos, everything like that. So
I will add, I think there's a lot of people still not even using there's a lot of times where the H.264 is still commonly used, and 265 is not even being used everywhere. And I did see a comparison though a while back comparing 264 and 265 even. It was a scene from Avengers, like the really action scene. They're showing like the different bit rates and the difference between the 264 and 265, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like it is impressive. And so if 266 is just an expansion on that, like it's impressive technology, and I find it exciting. And I think, hopefully it stays and is adopted. So.
Yeah, and there might be some of you out there like listening, going, I have no clue what you're talking about. H whatever number.
If you live off in the middle of nowhere, you might have a chance of downloading, like watching streaming video in the future. So
yeah, just think about watching streaming and using half as much data, essentially. That might be the simple terms of it. So awesome. Yeah, I think the last basic things we wanted to touch on were CES just happened this past week, and I didn't watch it. I kind of took a quick look at what some of the stuff that was announced was, and there was some interesting stuff. I think just because it was virtual this year rather than being in person, I think companies, it's hard to put your, I don't know, eggs all in that basket when you know it's not going to be as widely broadcasted, and people aren't walking around hyping it up. So I think there was definitely some cool stuff, not just like computer stuff. There was some other cool stuff. I know some of the things that I noticed, like when I went through them, LG's products really went to top of mind for myself. They had a phone with an expandable screen on it. They had a transparent television, so you could kind of see through the TV. I think I don't really know how it worked, but you could.
You don't know how it works.
Well, no. Let me go build one in my backyard. I'm assuming you can adjust that contrast or whatever you'd call it, so you can see through or not see through at all. But it was kind of cool, the videos, and I'm sure you could Google it up online. But you can have the weather on there, but still see out the window type of thing.
Right.
What else? LG had a cool fridge that you knock on and it goes clear, so you can actually see what's inside the fridge. So if you have a messy fridge, and if you're not, you can hide all that.
Makes me think, would you want a front door like that?
Yeah, knock on the front door and it opens.
People can see it.
Yeah. Well, you see it in TV shows, that glass that goes obscure. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, do you really want that for a fridge?
Well, I think the whole point is that you don't have to hold it open. I think it's to conserve energy, so you can see what's in there. So you're not holding your fridge open, searching for stuff. You can kind of look at it from outside. I don't know.
And if we're honest, how many times do we go to the fridge just opening it for the sake of opening it?
That's
just
true.
To see what's there. And so if we could at least start knocking on it to see what's in there and not wasting power.
I mean, the smart fridge. I mean, you have your fridge has basically an Android screen on it, so it's
that's true. But how much is it actually? It even has the camera inside, so you can like look at the camera and you can awkwardly kind of see inside the fridge. So I guess this is like a 2.0 of that, which we don't even really use.
Yeah.
So
is it probably kept on the weather most of the time or something like that, or a picture?
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's largely
cool novelty, but will you?
And half the time people they call it an iPad half the time here. It's like there's an iPad on the fridge and I have to be technically, but anyways.
The other cool thing, and this is totally not like computer related, and we're trying to go all tech here, but Kohler had a smart tap that, from my understanding, you could tell it to pour out a liter of water and it'll give you a liter of water. So if you're, I think it also does temperature as well. So if maybe if you're into cooking, that could be handy. If you're just needing a liter of water, it could save you some time. So a smart tap, and again, you can check that out. Google Kohler smart tap, and you should find that. But there's definitely some cool stuff there. Robotic. Samsung had a cool robot vacuum, I guess, to compete with the Roomba and all that. But yeah, did you have any other kind of thoughts on that, or were you?
No, I haven't actually followed CES yet. I might do kind of a check it out once it's all wrapped up and see what's out there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. Other than the video cards, and kind of that AMD, Nvidia stuff was kind of the main thing for me and stuff.
Yeah,
But I'll have to follow up afterward and see when everything settles. See what's
for sure.
yeah.
And I think like I just popped up this question for you guys, and if you're watching or listening on YouTube, for us, maybe the question of the day is, what's your favorite tech gadget of the year? Or maybe I should have said CES. If you have some, maybe write those in the comments section below here on YouTube. We'd love to hear about what your favorite tech gadget has been this year, or if you maybe maybe your favorite video card, what you're using in your computer as well. We'd love to hear about that in the comments section below. Any other final thoughts today before we wrap this up here, Stephen?
No, I think everything. It's kind of an interesting. I mean, I guess it's interesting to see where this what new tech comes out. I'm excited for some of the tech and stuff coming up, and I look forward to discussing it more this year.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm happy we've got episode 1 done and in the books, and hopefully we'll have another one coming out soon. I appreciate all of you listening today, and we appreciate you all, and we hope that you learned something today. So until next time, thanks for listening, and take care. Remember to subscribe here on YouTube and to the podcast. Bye-bye.